Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been studying old alien ruins for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like this. The crystal tower on planet Kepler 442c stood almost 200 feet tall, looking like a giant diamond that someone had carved into impossible shapes. It twisted and curved in ways that hurt her eyes to follow, and sometimes she swore it seemed to shimmer and change when she wasn't looking directly at it. Her team had discovered the structure 3 days ago during a routine survey mission. The research ship Meridian was supposed to catalog dead civilizations, not find active alien technology. But this tower was definitely not dead. Every few hours it would pulse with a soft blue light, like a heartbeat made of stars. Elena stood at the edge of the tower's base, holding her scanning equipment. The device beeped steadily as it took readings of the strange metal that wasn't quite metal. Her hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from excitement. This could be the discovery that changed everything humanity knew about life in the universe. She should have waited for backup. Protocol said never to investigate unknown alien structures alone. But her communication device had been acting up all morning, cutting in and out with static. The rest of her team was back at the ship, working on other samples they'd collected. Elena told herself she would just take a few quick readings and then head back. The scanner in her hand suddenly started beeping faster. Much faster. The blue light in the tower began to pulse in rhythm with the beeps, growing brighter with each flash. Elena stepped back, but it was too late. The tower responded to her presence like it had been waiting for her. A doorway appeared in the crystal wall where none had existed before. It opened silently, revealing a corridor that glowed with the same blue light. The air that drifted out felt warm and carried a strange smell, like flowers mixed with electricity. Elena knew she should turn around and run back to the ship. Instead, she found herself stepping forward. The moment she crossed the threshold, the door sealed behind her. She wasn't trapped exactly. She could see the outline where the door had been, but there was no handle or control panel. The only way was forward, deeper into the alien structure. The corridor defied everything Elena knew about physics. The walls curved impossibly, bending up and around until she wasn't sure which way was up anymore. Gravity seemed to shift as she walked, sometimes pulling her forward, sometimes sideways. Her feet found purchase on surfaces that should have been walls or ceilings. The blue light pulsed around her like she was walking through the veins of some enormous living creature. She tried her radio again. Nothing but static. The scanner still worked, though, and it was going crazy. The readings showed energy levels that shouldn't be possible, and patterns that suggested this wasn't just a building, it was a machine. A very big, very old machine that was waking up after a long sleep. Elena followed the winding corridors for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Time seemed strange in this place. Finally, she emerged into a vast circular chamber that took her breath away. The ceiling stretched up into darkness, supported by pillars of living light. The walls were covered with symbols that shifted and moved like liquid mercury. But it wasn't the architecture that made her stop and stare. It was the pods. Dozens of transparent containers lined the walls, each one large enough to hold a person. Most were empty, filled with swirling mist that sparkled like crushed diamonds. But Elena's eyes were drawn to the center of the chamber, where one pod remained occupied. She approached slowly, her scientific training warring with simple human curiosity. The figure inside the pod was clearly not human, but it was beautiful in a way that made Elena's chest tight. Tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to glow with its own inner light. Intricate patterns covered the being's body like tattoos made of starlight. And even in sleep, there was something regal about the way it lay. Elena realized she was looking at what could only be described as an alien queen. She pulled out her scanner to take readings, but the device slipped from her nervous fingers and clattered to the floor. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. The liquid in the occupied pod began to drain away, and the lid started to open with a soft hiss. Elena's heart hammered as she watched the being's eyes flutter open. They were large and multifaceted like a dragonfly's, but filled with an intelligence that was unmistakably aware and thinking. The alien sat up slowly, gracefully, and turned to look directly at Elena. For a moment that lasted forever, neither moved. The alien's skin shifted through different colors: surprise, confusion, something that might have been embarrassment. Elena realized that the being was in a natural state, vulnerable and unguarded, after what must have been centuries of sleep. The alien's multifaceted eyes widened as they took in Elena's appearance. The color patterns on her skin became more rapid, cycling through shades of blue and silver that Elena somehow understood meant shock and disbelief. This being had expected to wake up to familiar faces, to her own people. Instead, she was looking at a strange creature from an unknown world. Elena raised her hands slowly, palms out, in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. She wanted to say something, but what did you say to an alien queen who had just woken up after who knows how long? Sorry for intruding seemed inadequate. The alien tilted her head, studying Elena with the same careful attention that Elena was giving her. Despite the awkwardness of the situation, Elena felt a thrill of wonder. She was the first human being to make contact with an intelligent alien species. This moment would change everything. But first, they had to figure out how to talk to each other and maybe find the alien some clothes. The silence stretched between them like a bridge neither knew how to cross. Elena watched as the alien queen's skin continued to shift through different colors, each pattern more complex than the last. It was like watching someone speak in a language made of light and shadow. The being slowly stood up from the pod, moving with a grace that made Elena think of dancers or flowing water. She was tall, easily 7 feet, but there was nothing threatening about her presence. If anything, she seemed just as confused and startled as Elena felt. Her large eyes kept darting between Elena's face and her strange clothing, as if trying to make sense of what she was seeing. Elena realized she was still staring and quickly looked away, giving the alien some privacy. She shrugged off her jacket and held it out as an offering. The gesture felt clumsy and awkward, like trying to give a blanket to someone who might not even understand what blankets were for. The alien queen tilted her head, studying the jacket with obvious curiosity. Her skin patterns shifted to softer blues and greens, and Elena got the feeling that these colors meant something like puzzlement or gentle amusement. After a moment, the queen reached out and touched the fabric with long, delicate fingers that sparkled with the same inner light as her skin. She seemed to understand what Elena was offering, but instead of taking the jacket, she gestured to her own body with what looked like a question. The patterns on her skin became more organized, flowing in specific directions that reminded Elena of writing or symbols. It was as if the alien was trying to explain something about herself, about her people, about why Elena's offer might not be necessary. Elena found herself nodding anyway, still holding out the jacket. Whatever customs this being's people had, she was alone now in a strange place with a strange creature. Some situations called for adapting to new circumstances. The alien queen seemed to appreciate Elena's persistence. With movements that seemed almost ceremonial, she accepted the jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. The fabric looked tiny on her tall frame, but she wore it with dignity, as if Elena had offered her a royal robe instead of a standard-issue research jacket. Now came the real challenge. How do you talk to someone when you don't share a language, a planet, or even the same basic biology? Elena pointed to herself. Elena, she said clearly, hoping the alien might understand that this was her name. The queen's multifaceted eyes focused intently on Elena's face, and her skin patterns became very still, as if she was concentrating hard. Elena repeated the gesture, pointing to herself again. Elena. The alien queen seemed to understand. She placed one graceful hand on her own chest, and when she spoke, her voice was like music played on instruments Elena had never heard before. The sounds were complex, layered with harmonics that seemed to come from different parts of her throat at the same time. Elena tried to repeat what she'd heard, but the sounds that came out of her mouth were clumsy and flat compared to the queen's musical speech. The alien's skin shifted to warm, golden colors, and Elena could swear she was trying not to laugh. It wasn't mean laughter, though. More like the gentle amusement of a teacher watching a student attempt something difficult for the first time. Elena pulled out her universal translator device, a small computer that could analyze languages and try to find patterns. She'd used it on dead languages carved into ancient ruins, but never on a living speaker. The device hummed as it tried to process the alien's musical words, but after several minutes, it just beeped in frustration and displayed an error message. The alien queen watched this with obvious interest. She reached out and gently touched the device, and Elena felt a small jolt of electricity pass between them. The queen's eyes widened, and her skin patterns became more rapid and excited. She spoke again, this time directing her words at the translator device as if she understood what it was for. Still nothing. The device couldn't make sense of a language that seemed to use color, harmony, and emotion as much as actual sounds. Elena tried a different approach. She looked around the chamber and pointed to different objects, saying their names in English. Wall, floor, light, pod. The alien queen followed her gaze each time, and Elena could see her trying to connect the sounds with the objects. When Elena pointed to the empty pods and said, "Sleep," the queen's entire demeanor changed. Her skin patterns shifted to deep purples and blacks, colors that somehow felt heavy with sadness. She gestured to all the empty containers around the chamber, then to herself, and Elena began to understand. This queen had expected to wake up to her own people. The other pods should have contained her subjects, her friends, maybe her family. Instead, she'd awakened alone after who knows how many years, with only a strange alien creature for company. Elena felt a wave of sympathy. She pointed to the empty pods, then made a questioning gesture, hoping to ask what had happened to the others. The queen seemed to understand, but her response was too complex for Elena to follow. She gestured to the walls, which began to glow brighter, and suddenly the symbols carved there started to move and change, telling a story in pictures and light. Elena watched, fascinated, as the walls showed images of a great civilization. Beautiful. Cities that floated in space, and then something terrible that made the people flee. The pictures showed ships leaving, people saying goodbye, and finally this queen entering her sleeping pod to wait for their return. But they never came back. Elena looked at the alien queen with new understanding. She was looking at someone who had lost everything, her people, her world, her time. The queen was stranded not just in space, but in time itself, centuries beyond anything she had known. The queen seemed to read Elena's expression. Her skin patterns softened to gentle silvers and whites, and she reached out to lightly touch Elena's shoulder. Despite everything she had lost, she was trying to comfort the strange alien who had stumbled into her tomb and awakened her to loneliness. In that moment, Elena realized that language might not be the most important thing they needed to share. Sometimes understanding came from something deeper than words. Over the next few hours, Elena and the alien queen developed their own strange way of talking. The queen's skin was like a living mood ring, showing emotions and ideas through waves of color that swept across her body. Elena learned to read some of the simpler patterns. Deep blue meant sadness, bright gold was curiosity, and silvery white seemed to mean friendship or peace. The queen was a fast learner, too. She picked up basic English words with surprising speed, though her musical voice made even simple words sound like songs. When she said Elena, it came out in 3 different harmonies at once, turning the scientist's plain name into something beautiful. Elena's translator device finally started making some progress when the Queen placed her hands directly on it. Somehow she could feed information directly into the machine, teaching it her language from the inside. It was like watching someone download knowledge straight into a computer using nothing but touch. "My name," the Queen said slowly. Her voice mixing English words with musical tones. "Is Zarathel Naya, but you may call me Zara." Elena smiled. "Zara. That's a beautiful name." Zara's skin rippled with warm colors that Elena was starting to recognize as pleasure or happiness. "Your people. Where do you come from?" Elena gestured upward, toward the ceiling and the sky beyond. "A planet called Earth. Very far from here. We travel in ships, exploring space, looking for—" She paused, not sure how to explain archaeological research to someone whose civilization might be the thing being researched. "Looking for us," Zara finished, and her skin showed understanding, mixed with something sadder. "You study the old ones, the dead civilizations." "Yes, but you're not dead," Elena said quickly. "You're here. You're alive." Zara's colors shifted to deep purples and blacks again. She gestured to the empty pods around them. "I am alone. My people, they left 3,000 of your years ago." The number hit Elena like a physical blow. 3,000 years. Zara had been sleeping since before the ancient Greeks built their first temples. While human civilization rose and fell and rose again, she had been waiting in this crystal tomb for her people to return. "Where did they go?" Elena asked gently. Zara moved to one of the glowing walls and pressed her hands against it. The surface came alive with images more detailed than any hologram Elena had ever seen. She watched a story unfold in light and color, seeing Zara's people as they once were. The Luxari civilization was incredible. Their cities floated like soap bubbles in space, connected by streams of pure energy. The people themselves moved like dancers, their glowing skin creating patterns of communication that made human language seem clumsy and slow. They had mastered sciences that Elena could barely understand, technology that bent space and time, machines that thought and dreamed, art forms that painted with gravity itself. But then came the darkness. The wall showed something approaching from deep space, not ships or aliens, but something else entirely. Elena couldn't quite understand what she was seeing. It looked like living shadows that consumed light and left emptiness behind. "The Devourers," Zara whispered, and her whole body shimmered with fear colors. "They eat thoughts, memories, souls. They came to our worlds like a plague of darkness." The images showed the Luxari fighting back, but their enemies weren't physical. How do you battle something that attacks your mind directly? Elena watched cities go dark one by one, their lights fading as the shadow things drained them of life and consciousness. "We could not fight them with weapons," Zara continued. "They lived in thoughts, in dreams. So my people decided to run. The great ships carried most of our civilization to distant stars, hoping to find a place the Devourers could not follow." "But you stayed behind," Elena said. Zara's skin showed colors Elena didn't recognize, complex patterns that might mean duty, sacrifice, or love. "Someone had to guard our knowledge, our history, our most precious secrets. I volunteered to sleep until they returned with news of a safe haven. And they never came back. Perhaps they found paradise and forgot about home. Perhaps the Devourers found them in the deep dark between stars. Perhaps they became something new, something that no longer needed old memories." Zara's colors cycled through possibilities, each one tinged with loss. Elena stared at the wall, which now showed the final image, Zara entering her sleeping pod. while automated systems sealed the crystal tower, waiting for a signal that would never come. You've been alone all this time. Not alone. Not exactly. Zara touched the wall again, and Elena could see data streams flowing beneath the surface like rivers of light. The tower holds everything. Every song my people ever sang, every story they ever told, every discovery they ever made. I am the keeper of all they were. The weight of that responsibility struck Elena like a hammer. This wasn't just a woman who had lost her people. This was a living library, the sole guardian of an entire civilization's worth of knowledge and culture. And Elena had awakened her by accident. "I'm sorry," Elena said. "I didn't mean to disturb your sleep." Zara's colors shifted to something like gentle amusement. Perhaps it was time to wake up. Perhaps the tower called to you for a reason. Elena thought about her malfunctioning communications, the way her scanner had responded to the tower's signals, how the door had opened for her specifically. "You think it was planned somehow?" "The Luxari believed in patterns," Zara said. "Nothing happens by pure chance. You found me when I needed to be found." Elena wasn't sure she believed in cosmic destiny, but she couldn't deny that everything about this discovery felt significant beyond mere scientific importance. She looked at Zara, this beautiful, tragic guardian of lost knowledge, and felt the weight of decision pressing down on her. What did you do when you accidentally became the bridge between two civilizations? When you held the keys to knowledge that could change everything humanity thought it knew about the universe? And more importantly, what did you do when you realized you didn't want to let go? Elena knew she was in trouble the moment she checked her watch. She had been inside the Crystal Tower for almost 6 hours. Her team on the Meridian would have noticed her absence by now. Standard protocol said that any team member who missed 2 check-ins would trigger an immediate search and rescue operation. But how could she leave now? Zara was showing her things that would revolutionize human understanding of science, technology, and life itself. The Luxari knowledge stored in the tower's crystalline memory banks contained solutions to problems humanity hadn't even discovered yet. "Your people will be looking for you," Zara said, reading Elena's worried expression with the same ease she read everything else about the human scientist. Her skin showed understanding colors, but also something deeper, loneliness at the thought of being abandoned again. "Yes," Elena admitted. "I should have reported back hours ago. They'll send a search team." Zara moved to another section of the wall and placed her hands against it. The surface came alive with external views of the tower, showing Elena the barren landscape outside from dozens of different angles. "I can hide the tower from their sensors," she said. "Make it invisible to their instruments." Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the tower's temperature. "You can do that?" "The tower has defenses, camouflage systems. We use them to hide from the devourers." Zara's skin shifted to darker colors as she mentioned their ancient enemy. "But if I activate them now, your people will think you disappeared. They will search, but they will never find you." The implications hit Elena like a wave. She could stay here, learning secrets that would advance human science by centuries. She could be the first person to truly understand an alien civilization from the inside. But it would mean cutting herself off from her own people, maybe forever. "There's another choice," Zara said quietly. "You could take me with you." Elena's heart skipped. "Could you leave? I mean, is that even possible?" "I have been the guardian here for 3,000 years, Zara replied. "But guardians can walk as well as watch. The knowledge in these walls, most of it I carry here." She touched her temple, and Elena could see faint patterns of light moving beneath her skin like thoughts made visible. "But what about the tower? All the information stored here?" Zara gestured, and the walls began to dim. "The tower was always meant to be temporary, a waiting place until my people returned, or until someone else was ready to receive what we preserved." Her multifaceted eyes focused intently on Elena. Perhaps that someone is you. Elena felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. I'm just one person, one scientist. I can't speak for all of humanity. But you can speak to them, Zara said. You can help them understand. The question is, are your people ready for what they would learn? That was the real problem, wasn't it? Elena thought about her own government, about the military officials who would want to weaponize Luxari technology, about the corporations that would try to profit from it. Would humanity use this knowledge wisely, or would they repeat the same mistakes that had nearly destroyed Zara's people? I don't know, Elena said honestly. Some of us would use it well. Others, she trailed off, thinking about human history's long record of turning discoveries into weapons. Zara's skin showed colors that Elena was learning meant deep thought. My people faced the same choice once. We developed technologies that could reshape matter, bend space, even touch the boundaries of consciousness itself. Some of us wanted to share these gifts freely. Others wanted to keep them secret, fearing they would be misused. What did you decide? We chose to share, Zara said, and her colors turned sad. We taught other species how to manipulate energy, how to build thinking machines, how to travel between stars. We thought knowledge was always good, that understanding would make the universe better. Elena waited for the rest of the story. But knowledge without wisdom is dangerous, Zara continued. Some of the species we taught used our gifts to build weapons of incredible power. Others created artificial intelligences that turned against their makers. Still others opened doorways to dimensions that should have remained closed. The Devourers? Zara's whole body shimmered with dark colors. We never knew if they came from the spaces between dimensions, or if someone created them by accident, while experimenting with consciousness manipulation. But they spread from world to world, consuming minds and leaving empty shells behind. And we had given other species the tools they needed to accidentally summon them. Elena felt a chill of understanding. You blame yourselves. We learned too late that sharing knowledge is not the same as sharing wisdom. Teaching someone to build a fire is good, but you must also teach them not to burn down the forest. Elena looked around the chamber, seeing it differently now. This wasn't just a treasure vault of alien technology. It was a test, a choice between the easy path of taking everything they could learn and the harder path of learning it responsibly. What do you think I should do? Elena asked. Zara's skin showed warm, friendly colors. I think you should trust yourself. You could have activated the tower's systems and downloaded everything by force. You could have woken me up and demanded answers. Instead, you offered me your jacket and tried to communicate. She paused, her colors shifting to something like admiration. Your first instinct was kindness. Elena felt heat rise in her cheeks. Anyone would have done the same. Would they? Zara moved closer, and Elena could feel the strange energy that surrounded her like a gentle electrical field. You are about to make the most important decision in your species' history. Choose carefully, Elena Rodriguez. Choose not just for yourself, but for all the generations that will come after. Outside the tower, Elena could hear the distant hum of approaching aircraft. Her team had found her location. Time was running out, and she had to decide. Reveal everything and risk humanity misusing it, or find a way to guide her people more carefully toward the stars. The sound of aircraft engines grew louder outside the crystal tower. Elena's rescue team was getting closer, and she had maybe 10 minutes before they reached the structure. 10 minutes to make a decision that would affect the future of human civilization. I want to come with you, Elena said suddenly, the words surprising even herself. Not to run away from my people, but to help bridge the gap between our species. Zara's skin shifted through a rapid cycle of colors, surprise, hope, and something that might have been relief. You understand the risks? Once you choose this path, Your life will never be the same. You will carry knowledge that will change you, change how you think and see the world." Elena nodded. She had already felt the changes beginning during her hours in the tower. Her mind felt sharper, more aware of patterns and connections she had never noticed before. It was as if proximity to Luxari technology was awakening parts of her brain that had been sleeping. "I need to contact my team first," Elena said. "I can't just disappear, but I also can't let them storm in here unprepared." Zara gestured to the wall, which became transparent like a window. Elena could see 3 aircraft circling the tower, their sensors sweeping the crystal structure, but apparently unable to penetrate its defenses. She recognized the lead ship. It belonged to Captain Morrison, her mission commander. "Can you let me communicate with them without revealing everything?" Elena asked. "The tower can create a communication link," Zara replied. "But what will you tell them?" Elena thought carefully. Morrison was a good man, but he followed regulations strictly. If she told him she had made first contact with a living alien, he would immediately call for military backup and scientific teams. The situation would spiral out of control quickly. "Captain Morrison," Elena said as Zara opened the communication channel. "This is Dr. Rodriguez. I'm safe and unharmed." "Elena," Morrison's voice crackled through the tower's systems. "Thank goodness. We've been looking for you for hours. Where are you? Our sensors can't get a clear reading on your location." "I'm inside the alien structure," Elena said truthfully. "Sir, I've made some extraordinary discoveries here. This isn't just a ruin. It's an active facility with incredible technology." There was a pause. "Are you saying the structure is operational?" "Yes, sir. And I believe I've found evidence that this civilization may not be as extinct as we thought." Elena caught Zara's eye and saw approval in her color patterns. "Elena, you need to get out of there immediately," Morrison said, his voice tense. "Unknown alien technology could be dangerous. We're sending in a full extraction team." "Sir, respectfully, I don't think that's wise," Elena replied. "The technology here is incredibly advanced, and it seems to respond to specific individuals. A military team might trigger defensive systems," she heard Morrison conferring with someone else, probably the mission's military advisor. Elena knew she was walking a tightrope. Too little information and they'd force their way in. Too much. And they'd call for reinforcements that could turn this first contact into a disaster. "What exactly have you found in there, Doctor?" Morrison asked finally. Elena took a deep breath. "I believe I've discovered a guardian system, sir. An artificial intelligence programmed to preserve this civilization's knowledge and history. It's been analyzing human technology and language patterns from my equipment." It wasn't exactly a lie. Zara was a guardian, and she had been analyzing Elena's technology. Elena just wasn't mentioning that the guardian was alive and standing right next to her. "An AI system. Elena, this could be incredibly dangerous. We need to follow first contact protocols." "Which is exactly what I'm trying to do, sir," Elena said. "The system seems willing to share information, but only gradually, only with individuals it trusts. If we approach this correctly, we could gain access to technology that would advance human science by centuries." Another long pause. Elena could almost hear Morrison weighing the possibilities against the risks. "What do you need from us, Doctor?" Elena felt a wave of relief. Morrison was listening, thinking like a scientist instead of just following military protocol. "Time, sir. The system is slowly teaching me its language, showing me safe ways to interface with their technology. I need at least another day, maybe 2, to establish proper communication protocols." "Absolutely not. You've been in there for 6 hours already. We don't know what kind of long-term effects exposure to alien technology might have." Elena looked at Zara, who had been following the conversation through the translation system. The alien queen's skin showed understanding, and she nodded slowly. "Sir," Elena said, "I'm going to send someone out to meet with you, a representative of the Guardian system. She can explain things better than I can." "She?" Elena realized her slip, but decided to push forward. The AI has chosen to present itself in humanoid form to make communication easier. It's quite sophisticated. Elena, are you telling me you're talking to an alien artificial intelligence that looks like a person? Something like that, yes, sir. Morrison was quiet for so long that Elena wondered if the communication had cut out. Finally, he spoke again. Doctor, I'm going to trust your judgment here, but I want you to know that I'm recording everything. If this goes wrong... I understand, sir. Elena looked at Zara, who had been listening to everything. Are you ready for this? Zara's skin showed determination mixed with nervousness. I have waited 3,000 years to speak with new minds. I think I am as ready as I will ever be. The tower began to change around them. Walls became transparent, showing the path to the outside. Elena realized that this moment would be remembered forever, the first time a human and an alien walked out together to meet the wider universe. Together? Elena asked, offering her arm. Zara linked her arm through Elena's, her glowing skin warm through the borrowed jacket. Together, she agreed. They walked toward the exit, toward Elena's people, toward a future that neither species could imagine alone but might build together.